Hello, everyone. I'm Temi.
And I'm Tobi.
And this is Totally on Brand. Today, guys, we are diving into a big topic that hits very close to home for many entrepreneurs, professionals also, and just even everyday decision makers. We are talking about the art of letting go, when to pivot, and when to persevere.
It's a very sticky topic, this
It
one.
is.
This one is exciting for me because I feel like I've lived many lives. I have persevered, I've pivoted,
Oh, gosh.
I've adapted, I've almost quit.
Yeah.
I quit every day, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're still here. But no, it is such a fine line between trying to figure out, do I want to stick with my vision? Do I want to cut my losses? Or do I want to try something else? And honestly, I think that decision is a very, very, very tough, because you're at cusp and you have to make a decision. Do I go right? Do I go left? And I find it to be such a difficult thing sometimes. But it can be rewarding. Yeah.
It really can. And I really feel like the people listening or watching this episode are really going to it's going to resonate with you. You know, if you're feeling stuck or frustrated or unsure what to do next, hopefully this episode answers some of those questions, offers some solutions, makes you not feel so alone. And perseverance not doesn't really always mean sticking to the same plan. You know, there are other ways to persevere without being stuck in a rut, so we're going to dive into that.
I like that. That actually makes a lot of sense, because sometimes I feel like when people hear about the word pivoting, maybe the first thing we need to do is actually to determine or define what it means to pivot, because it sounds a lot more dramatic than it is.
I mean, when people hear pivot, they think it's this like 180-degree turn. About
Is it
turn.
not?
It's not.
I hated hearing this word.
Pivot, right? And then
Yes.
it became like a buzzword. People started using it a lot.
I think so.
Yes.
The one that used to get me, which I now started using a lot, was diversifying. It used to scare me as well, but then eventually I understood it, and then what's the word?
Imbibed it.
That's right. You're my word. You're my word partner. Thank you.
So, I mean, yeah, it's like you said. It's not always a 180. No. What is it?
I think pivoting, you should never get stuck in thinking that you have to do this big turnaround, like I have to drop everything I'm doing and start again. No. Pivoting could literally be a small step forward. It could be literally you deciding, okay, I just need to change direction. I need to, what I'm currently doing is not working the way I imagined it. So I need to change something. Sometimes you find that it's something you just need to adjust, either at the beginning, something in the middle. Like it could literally be a process. It could be that you were offering 5 things and you need to now change to offering just 4 things.
Yeah.
It can be as minuscule. Is that a correct word? Minuscule, thank you. It can be as minuscule and it can be as big as you want the feeling the act to be.
Absolutely. I mean, I love that. And I like the fact that right off the bat, we're letting people know that you can pivot a little. It's not just, you can pivot it a little bit. It's not just always a change of everything that you've known in the past. And more importantly, pivoting is not failure. Because a lot of people feel like they have to fail before they need to pivot. People get stuck. People don't want to do it. People see an opportunity that is better for them, but I'm just not going to do it because it means I failed. And you're not throwing in the towel. You know what I mean? Like, you're just choosing a better direction.
Do you know why it's so interesting you said this pivoting thing is not failure? Because honestly, I'm 6 years into entrepreneurship and I only just realized this.
Yeah.
Because for so many times I've had to make a change in my business or in my life for something else I want. I have felt utterly terrified, very crappy with myself, and I have felt like I failed the other thing I've had to shift focus from. So I'm actually quite happy you said that, because I think the idea of pivoting, adapting, or changing direction usually makes people feel like they failed at something.
Yeah.
So that's what's causing this.
Absolutely. And it's like you said, it's terrifying, and when you've been in a business for a long time, and if you say it's taken you 6 years to really understand what pivoting is,
Yes.
imagine people who have wanted to pivot within that 6 year period and just
Yeah.
didn't because they didn't really understand.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very, very sensitive topic, but it's also very interesting. And I think we also need to understand how to do it strategically. So it's not just about pivoting. We also want to talk about how to do it strategically. But first, let's talk about the signs that it's time to pivot, because there are signs. You start feeling things, your body will start doing you somehow. You're like, I'm not comfortable here, I'm not thriving here. So there are signs. Well, let's talk about these signs.
I can only speak from personal experience. So I've had a few like come to Jesus moments in business where I've had to be forced to pivot. The first one question is starting a new business pivoting.
I mean, did the new business replace an old business? Or like, is it a new industry?
Yeah, it was completely a new industry. I was trying to figure out if starting my restaurant can be termed under pivoting, but maybe not. Because I was in a 9 to 5, which I loved.
Well, that's a pivot.
And I stumbled upon entrepreneurship, and it was just, oh, there's a gap here.
Yeah.
We can do it.
Yeah.
We can have something new in the portfolio. Let's do it. But I think for me, when I got into actually understanding I had to pivot, was a year and a half, about 2 years into business, COVID happened. I was so terrified. I was so uncomfortable. I was still in debt. I was still paying debt off. And I had so many staff. I had over 90 people at the time I was managing. And it was very uncomfortable because I didn't know what to do. I was new into entrepreneurship. I don't know what pivoting means. I don't even know what's going on. I don't know what I'm doing. And all of a sudden, I'm having to make decisions or think for myself, think for this brand, and think for the people that work for the brand. So the first thing we had to do was think of, okay, we're all shut down. What is happening at the moment? Nobody can move. What do people need? They need their goods and services brought to them. Okay, fine. I don't have a takeout department. Maybe this is the time to start takeouts. Got out my laptop, built a whole takeout business, and literally in 4 weeks started that process.
I remember that vividly. And what I liked about that, which I would say is a pivot, was that other people did takeout, but you created a takeout business, right? So it's people could have we just order off the menu, but you created processes specifically around takeout, and then called it, because we all knew it was like the house takeout.
Yes.
Yeah,
so we created branding around it. I even actually did a cloud kitchen for it eventually. Obviously, when we started, we're doing it out of the current house kitchen because it was shut down. But as things started to pick up, I have pivoted for a situation. I didn't plan for when we came out of that situation. So I had to pivot twice.
Wow.
Meaning, when we now started operations back, the takeout business was being a problem to the dining business because I hadn't planned for it. Because I only planned for takeout when dining was down.
And then when
I didn't plan it for it together.
Yeah.
So when dining came back out, I literally looked around. I was like, this is a mess. I should have never done this.
Yeah.
But then the energy wasn't, I should not say I should have never done this. It was, I need to pivot again because this wasn't working for us. We're delaying orders in dining. We're delaying orders for takeout. We're just on top of each other because now there are two businesses in one space and nobody built those businesses to interact with each other. So I had to then get a cloud kitchen and move the takeout out first, which obviously cost more money, but it was better in that moment. I then taught myself, or I spent another 3 months, 12 weeks, understanding the two separately while interacting with each other or while making customers not feel like they were different. Once I understood those, I built the terrace, then I brought the takeout back.
I like how you incorporated the terrace into this whole process. Like, how it wasn't the cloud kitchen at the location?
Yes, the cloud kitchen was at the terrace.
Yeah.
Then I realized I could have two businesses, or rather I could have 3 businesses in one if I was very intelligent.
Yeah.
So I felt like the terrace business, the cloud kitchen just sitting at the terrace was not enough. So I decided to move the take out back to the house because I now understood them, merged them back together and built another business. That way I could enjoy economies of scale because the economy started affecting us. We're struggling with margins. So I needed economies of scale. So I built 3 businesses within the one portfolio so that the different margins are helping the main brand stay afloat. So that's how I
mean, this
survived.
story never fails to like impress me because the thing is, you know, we're talking about signs, and your sign was clear. I needed to adapt to a time that nobody was prepared for. Then another sign to pivot was, oh, I hadn't prepared for what would happen when it changed back. Like you basically
Oh
you
my
listened
God.
to the sign, you saw the signs and you responded to them, which caused you to pivot twice in a short space of time, but
Yeah.
quite successfully, I would say. You know, so I mean, I
Almost
love
took
this
my
story.
life, but
I mean, it's I keep saying you people in hospitality, ha ha ha,
it's a lot.
could never do that.
So interesting you say that because it's all about patterns, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like now that you highlight it that way, I can see situations where I pivoted.
Yeah.
But while I was in it, I didn't realize
That's
I
what
was
you were doing.
pivoting. I was like literally surviving, which is why I told you it's only now
That you
I
can.
understand that I am living in pivots, and some of them are small, some are big. Another thing I realized recently as well is I've also dropped things to focus on some things as well because I was spreading part of the business too thin. And I had to remove certain things to make sure other things thrived as well. I don't know if that's a sign too.
Yeah, because you know, we said not everything has to be a huge pivot.
Yeah.
You know, you could just be dropping things to make space for a little change in another area.
Yeah.
So
What other signs are there? So Temi, last year, one of the reasons we had a whole year's break is because you woke up one day, you were running an agency and you had like all these clients, all this like amazing like work you were doing, and somehow you decided, nope, you had an opportunity. And I remember that phone call where you're like, Toby, I have an opportunity I think I want to take. And I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I watched you literally go from being an entrepreneur back into full-time employment, not just employed in government, which we all know. I love you, government, but it is tough. It's not the easiest place to work. And I watched you take on that challenge and kind of adjust slightly. And I know it really, really took a lot out of you.
So it was that was definitely
the
a clear.
sign?
Okay, so
Yeah.
that was a clear-cut pivot for me professionally, right? Because like you said, I had gone from being an entrepreneur for 10 years. And the thing is, I still consider myself an entrepreneur. I just wanted to see if the business or the processes I'd put in place could carry the business through or carry the business while I had my own professional pivots, right? So the signs for me, there were 2 very clear-cut signs, I would say. One was stagnancy. I felt stagnant. I felt like I'd achieved building my business. I had reached a diverse portfolio of clients. We were growing. We were on the path to growth. And then I personally, Temi, was stagnant professionally. And so the opportunity presented itself, might I add, quite randomly. And the first sign was how I felt when I got the opportunity. The first sign was excitement. I truly felt excited. I don't think I had felt that professionally excited in like 5 years. So the first sign was I felt excited. So I was like ready to take this on. The second sign truly was that I always say this, as a business owner and entrepreneur, you never stop learning. I have never doubted the ability for you to increase your capacity. No matter how smart you get, you can always learn. You can learn more and you can apply it back to other things you're doing. I was intrigued by the fact that I would learn more about how the country operates. I was intrigued by the fact that I would be able to, in my own way, make a difference. I wanted to learn more about small businesses because, my agency is firmly rooted in that like SME space. We have clients on either end.
And you get a lot of lifestyle clients too.
Lifestyle, hospitality, lifestyle and
Mm-hmm. It's very
hospitality.
different from the job,
Yes.
the SME perspective of
Yes.
your job,
Yes.
right?
Exactly. And I wanted to learn more how to help them, right? Because that's really at the end of the day what my agency does is strategy. So I wanted to learn more about how to help them. So the signs were, one, I identified that I could learn more. And two, I felt excitement when I was offered the job. So yes, that was a very clear cut pivot. Um, and would I say it was terrifying? It absolutely was, because I had to learn how to go back to being an employee. And I had to learn how to go back to having a structure, which of course included travel a lot, which was why, it was hard for us to align. But
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, I would say that the signs were clear and I knew that it was a
I
huge
love
pivot.
that you talked about excitement
Yeah.
with pivoting,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like what you did that is also very key to me is you didn't scrap everything. You
No,
didn't actually like drop your business and
no.
say, I'm no longer doing this. It wasn't, I wasn't doing this anymore. Is I'm going to structure this to do this. I'm going to do this, and I'll figure out what we do
Mm-hmm.
as we go along, which lets me know that when it comes to pivoting, it can be as simple as just focusing on something else. It can even be a timed
Yeah.
pivot. It
Yes, it
doesn't
can
actually
be
have to be
a
a
small
forever pivot.
engagement. Yes,
Exactly.
yes, yes, I
So I
agree.
really like that. Now, the emotions of it. Now, I know we've
Mm-hmm.
said all these nice things, but it's not easy. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it is really, 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 really hard to tell people to let go of something they have worked hard for. Um the past 2 years, when I was going through a lot of the personal things I was going through, I asked myself a few times, should I let go of the rush? Like I couldn't cope with all the economic situations and also the personal I was dealing with as well. And it made me start questioning what I was doing. Even till now, I don't have the answers because I'm in a, I don't want to say saturated market. The market is a bit saturated at the moment. There's so many options.
Mm-hmm.
The consumer buying power has reduced. So if I was competing for 10,000 naira per week across 10 clients, now I'm competing for 1,000 naira across 2 clients,
Oh my
which you
goodness.
have to first understand is horrid for any business. So I started to question myself and ask myself, like, what do I do? So I'm currently at another cusp of pivoting again. I had
Mm-hmm.
to ask myself, do I expand
Mm-hmm.
or do I leave it how it is and let it kind of trail down? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
currently on that journey. But for the emotional side of things, how, I don't know if you have any advice because you're in the service industry and
Mm-hmm.
you've obviously just pivoted
Mm-hmm.
into a career transition. Like, do you have any thoughts on the emotions? Because I haven't answered it. I'm emotional right now, genuinely,
Mm.
about shifting and changing. It's a lot.
Mm. You know, the emotional side of business is something that people really need to talk more about. I mean, we're talking specifically about pivoting here, but that fear of failure. Pivoting can feel like failure because in that moment I felt excitement. I'm thinking, well, does that mean that my agency doesn't excite me anymore? Does it mean that I haven't
Mm,
done enough to like spark joy in that area?
mm,
Like there's always going to be a fear of failure that would hold you back from moving onto
mm,
something else. I mean, I've seen what you're doing, expanding in the midst of other difficulties, and obviously the fact that the industry is saturated, but I've never seen failure hold you, like the fear of failure holding you back. You remember
yeah,
back in season 1 when you said that you do not like the word fail?
I hate it.
I know you said you
I
don't
can't
like
stand
that.
it. I don't know what it
so
means.
so that's that, but that's the emotional toll that it takes on some people and some business owners and some people, entrepreneurs, when it's time to pivot. But I want to say that let's not equate quitting with failure.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah,
a big
yeah.
one.
Let's not equate quitting with failure. You can quit something, doesn't mean you failed. Yeah, you can quit something, doesn't mean you
Ooh.
failed. It means that the smarter move was to drop that
I think
thing.
it's going to be very hard for people to I feel like you have to reaffirm that to yourself for it to hit. Because
Yeah.
as you said it now,
Yeah.
I had to tell myself 2 or 3 times
Yeah.
for it to really sink in. I'm like, Toby, quitting does not mean you failed. You just decided no more. But how do I equate those two things?
I mean, I said it twice because I also needed to remind myself, because there are things I've stayed in well past their due dates because I didn't want to fail. But it's not failure. I mean, quitting just means you're ending you're walking away from something, but you didn't fail at that thing. It could be the wrong fit, it could be the wrong environment, it could be the wrong time. You can come back to it at a right time. But it's sometimes I really just think it's the smartest move you can make.
I'm smiling because there's something I wrote here which is literally like picking on what you said. Okay, so I want to ask you something. Quitting isn't failure. When do you... Okay, quitting isn't failure. Sorry, I really need to unpack. I keep saying it right because it's actually a big deal for me.
It's not easy to hear.
At what point have you had to... Okay, do people quit because they failed?
No.
Really?
Well, see, failure is a very subjective...
Okay, that's the part
word,
I'm missing.
because
it's subjective.
Did I fail because it didn't work out? Did I fail because the environment wasn't conducive? Did I fail because I'd run out of options? Did I fail because I didn't have the right partners? Did I fail because I didn't have the right team? If I have quit, it is because I, Temi, have decided that is no longer conducive or smart, or is not the smartest thing for me to do.
I see the difference.
Not necessarily that I failed.
I see the difference better. And what that does is it also helps me understand the difference between perseverance and stubbornness. And interestingly enough, I feel like you kind of need a little bit of both to kind of work each other. So I like that. I'm actually going to hold on to... I'm going to ask myself that a lot. Quit and failing. Interesting. Well, okay. This brings me to actually talk about brands who I have watched pivot. I literally watched... I don't know, PayPal. Do you remember how PayPal started?
No.
They were like a company that was making security software for handheld devices.
PayPal?
And they had to transition. I would love to speak to someone in that office.
Like PayPal, the money transaction.
That's how they started.
That's a pivot.
I know. Do you remember Netflix as well? Do you know Netflix literally?
Oh,
do you remember
my God,
Netflix pivots?
Yes.
Do you remember they were trying to literally just... I can't remember how they started actually.
Mail in rental DVDs.
I need to Google this. I can't remember.
You had like DVDs that you mailed in.
You're right. They were digitizing what Blockbuster was doing. So they actually pushed Blockbuster out of the market because of how revolutionary. So
that was a good one.
I think their pivot was so revolutionary as well. I'm trying to think of others. Twitter?
Oh, yes.
Do you remember what Twitter was?
Podcasts.
Huh?
Podcasting platform.
I remember now. So we could have been on Twitter.
I mean, now it's X, so we dodged the bullets.
We really dodged the bullets. Oh my God, I didn't know Twitter was a podcasting platform. That is so interesting. Do we know any local ones?
I have a fave. Well, one of my faves. Or I think it's maybe just because I use the brand so often that I keep remembering where they started. So Gokada.
Oh, yeah. I remember Gokada. Yeah. That was a good one.
It started as ride hailing and this was when like Okadas were everywhere. And then Lagos State banned Okadas.
I will faint.
I will faint. I remember seeing pictures of like warehouses of their fleet of motorcycles, and I just felt so sad for them.
I know.
Next thing, their logistics. And listen, I feel like they're doing probably better as logistics now
than
they may have if they were a ride-hailing company.
That's
right?
So
because
interesting.
Do you understand? So that was a nice pivot. Another one in the same like logistics space is God is Good Motors, which I'm not gonna lie to you.
I love
until
them.
maybe this year.
No. I love GIG.
Until this year, I did not know it was the same company.
Really?
I didn't know GIG was God is good.
So someone actually, this happened to me like maybe like 4 months ago. Someone was saying something, and I was like, God is good, and they're like, GIG, this me, yes, God is good. They're like, oh, GIG, this me,
GIG.
yeah.
Even their rebrand was very strategic.
I like it.
I love it.
No, that's actually such a profound pivot because
Mm.
God is good. When I was younger, when I was like a child running like literally in singlets and
Mhm.
pants, like God is good was literally transporting. I remember like whenever my aunties or uncles or people would
Yeah.
come from like
Yeah.
Ondo State
Yeah.
or Akure, like it would be GIG or people traveling from Abuja. I just know that
Yeah.
people would always say,
Yeah.
go and enter, God is good. So to
Yeah.
know that that is actually what GIG is today, that's actually a fantastic pivot.
Yeah. And I think it's a successful one for them as well. If you think about how many GIG logistic, hubs there are in like one area, it means that they're
Yeah.
doing their volume is high.
That is
They're
so.
doing well.
It actually brings me to that pyramid. There was a pyramid theory.
Mm.
You know, you're my theory, babe.
No.
Temi is no, guys. Temi is so
No.
articulate. Like she has like all those like fantastic theories to buttress some of our like little like topics. Tell us.
Do you know when we were okay? So, guys, this is also something that we are transparent about, is that we like to do research. We like to know about what we're talking about, what we're telling you about. And I came across this really cool thing called a pivot pyramid. Basically, the pivot pyramid is a pyramid that helps you identify the 5 key areas that you can pivot. And it could be one, it could be a combination, it could be all at the same time. And it should be showing up on the screen right now. So basically, the key areas are customers, problems, solution, tech, and growth. So I'll give you a real example. If you have a good product or a service, so basically your solution is good, but your customers are wrong, which means you've been targeting the wrong customers. Your tech is good, your growth journey is good, your strategy, everything, but your customer is wrong on this pyramid. You need to now say, I've been targeting the wrong customer, and then you can pivot. So you can choose a different customer base, you can choose a different demographic. That's a customer pivot on the pyramid, and you should instantly see a positive change.
I like this. I like this because when you apply theories to things, I think it just gives them a little bit more grounding and more structure. Thank you for that. Structure of something to follow and something to fall back on. It is very important when you're running a business because sometimes as you journey, your vision changes. You get confused along the way. You need something to come back to, something you keep reminding yourself, this is my why. And I like what you just shared about the pivot pyramid because it also highlights to me the differences between pivoting and diversifying. And I really want you to take stock of both. Permit me to read a short definition for you so that you can kind of hold on to the differences between both. The pivoting is a radical change, a shift in direction. Note that shift in direction. Diversifying is about incremental growth. It is like when Google diversified into hardware, they didn't stop their core. All they did was just go into a new market because they had the product for it. Let me give you another local example. There's a company in Nigeria at the moment called Pedro's Ogogoro. They're the first indigenous brand to try to like palm sap, like actually generate like local like alcohol.
Yeah.
And what was fascinating about their journey, which I paid attention to because I'm in hospitality, so it was nice to actually have a homegrown brand that we could buy. What was fascinating about them is when they made their main production, they have something called a byproduct. And that byproduct during COVID, they turned to sanitizers because it is still alcohol. So it is still able to sanitize. They diversified in that period. Now, as we have moved away from COVID, I know, knowing the owners of the business, they're probably going to use that byproduct to create another brand. And that is essentially what diversifying it. It is literally carving out something else from what you currently have. So in my example of the house with the takeout, it's pivoting, but theoretically, I think it's also diversifying. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's a combination of both, right? Because now that you say it that way, I'm thinking about all the times one could think it's a pivot, but really is a diversifying. Takeout.
Yes.
See, let me say the takeout really was diversifying, right?
I
Because you
think
took
so
something that
too.
you already had
Had.
and made it slightly different to reach a wider
Yes.
audience. So that was diversifying.
Can you see how it's getting so interesting?
Yes, I would say in your example, maybe your pivot was leaving paid employment to go into hospitality because you say all the time that it was an opportunity you identified, not
Ooh.
necessarily something you were like you were
Yeah.
in. What was your 9 to 5?
When I started,
Yes.
generally, at the moment when I started the house, it was working for a company called Baloche. And I
So that's
was
like
like,
security.
yes, so we're doing access control,
That was a huge
automation, and
pivot.
car park management.
That
It
was
was
a huge
completely
pivot.
like, and I knew nothing about
You just
hospitality.
dove right
I
in,
just saw a gap.
deep end.
Yeah,
Okay.
literally dive like
Head
those.
first.
Yeah, head first. And that's interesting. So, I mean, from what you just said, it means both strategies can work.
Yeah.
I guess when you want to pivot, you
Yeah.
focus on what's working.
Yeah.
And when you want to diversify, you focus on what you can,
Yeah.
what new thing
You
or what
can.
potentials you can
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
pull out of the business.
Oh, I
So
like
interesting.
that. I like that. So, you know, pivoting could essentially take you in a different direction, right? That's what we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
A pivot will actually take you in a different direction most times. Whereas diversifying, you're kind of just expanding into new roads along the way. Like you're still in the same direction, but they're little like roads,
Mm-hmm.
offshoots, and like little avenues off that main road. So it's not necessarily a change. It's like an
Yeah.
addition.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I like that.
I guess my biggest message to most people, whether you're in a career or you're an entrepreneur, is I think you should leave room for potential pivoting.
Mm-hmm.
But do not be scared or think pivoting is failure
Mm-hmm.
or think you have to make drastic changes to pivot or diversify. And maybe we shouldn't make people over stress on which is pivoting and which is diversifying.
Yeah,
As long as you're adjusting the
yeah,
right way,
yeah.
the
It's
what you've
good.
done will
Mm-hmm.
pay off, I guess.
You're also essentially solving the issue of being stuck. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're identifying what needs to change.
Yeah. I don't like when people view pivoting and diversifying from a place of failure.
Yeah.
So I'll go back again. Currently, the economy has done a big number
Mm-hmm.
on my business.
Mm-hmm.
It has been horrible,
Mm-hmm.
Temi, like horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to make a lot of changes
Can imagine.
through it, which I would say pivoting because a lot of them I have not created anything new. I've just had to adjust things in the spectrum of my model. In some instances, I've had to reduce certain job roles, remove certain job roles, compound certain job roles. So I've shifted people. Another thing I've had to do is systems.
Mm.
I've had to readjust our entire system because what we're doing last year, the systems we're employing and the processes don't work for now. Like customers are so impatient. Their disposable income is so reduced. They want the value you promised them. So we've had to change a lot of things. We've added new script layers. We've just changed a lot.
Mm.
And I guess for me, I'm just trying to ask or understand or share with people that sometimes whether you decide to do it or not, just you said it earlier, don't forget or try not to get yourself into a box or a situation where you think it's because you failed or
Mm-hmm.
something is
Mm-hmm.
not working for you that
Mm-hmm.
you've had to do this. Sometimes it could be an external
Yeah.
environmental factor that you cannot help.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that if failure is inevitable, sometimes, like you said, if it's an if it could be an external factor, it could be economy. Some businesses are failing right now because of the economy, and it's inevitable for them, because small businesses intrinsically want to survive. I don't think that they would do anything that intentional. Well, I mean, again, I'm speaking in general terms, but if there is something that causes you to fail and it's inevitable, people still need to see that as a stepping stone. You need to take stock of what you have failed at or what
I
caused
like
the
that.
failure.
I like
Go
that.
back to the drawing board and then find a way to learn from that failure and apply it to your next. I'll give an example because I know it can sound really, really hard to hear that when you're a small business that's failing. If, for example, you are a ready to wear brand, right?
Mhm.
And one of the reasons why it's really hard for you to succeed at your business right now is because the price of material, the fabric, price of fabric, your supplier has doubled her prices. You can no longer find the fabric that you've been using. You can no longer find and you have a distinct look and feel to your business, and people expect that, but you can no longer afford to pay your supplier. An example for me, and this is not to say I'm an expert in this industry, so if you hear me talking about this and you want to send me an email after to talk about this with me, please do. But an example would be how to turn waste into profit, right? So you're a specific designer, you have specific designs and you have fabric, but you can only use a specific amount of fabric for one outfit. You're going to have leftover scraps of fabric. You could then, this is diversifying, by the way, and this is learning from failure. You could then say, okay, we're going to create a capsule collection where we take all the scraps of fabric and make it into a dress. That is also a sustainable practice, by the way, but it's just one of the ways that you can, because you're mitigating the cost of your fabric, but you're creating a new stream, you're creating a new collection, whatever it is. Like these are in fact, I'm probably pulling from a real life example that I've heard about, which is, and the business owner would tell you, the reason I did that was because I was failing at making single fabric. Like it wasn't enough. I couldn't keep my business afloat. You had to adjust. You had to diversify. So this is all adapting and learning from failure, because that is what you would see inevitably as failure. But what I want to ask you as well is how do you take these failures, like give me a practical way that our listeners can and our viewers can use. Like, how do you actually build resilience, or how do you learn from these setbacks, because it can be quite disheartening, right?
I feel like within your business, you're going to experience a lot of opportunities, and just be careful so that all the opportunities are not distracting. Take a step back, reflect, and don't be scared to make decisions. If your decision doesn't work, it's okay. You backtrack and you make a new one, and you walk in that. If it doesn't work, you backtrack again and you walk in a new one. But one thing I've learned as a business owner now is, and someone who's also worked. So my natural disposition is to actually work for people. I enjoy working for people more than owning my own business, but it's also rewarding. But one of the biggest things I've learned is your success lies in your ability to take a step back, think, then act again. That moment could be the moment everything changes for you.
I love that perspective. It's so powerful, and a lot of people that are, watching and listening to this podcast have been through similar experiences and have sent in questions and asked us how exactly, how do we know when to pivot? How do we know when to persevere? What does failure look like? How to bounce back? So I want us to dive into some of these questions that we've received. What do you think, Tobes?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. First one. How do I know if I'm pivoting too soon?
It means you're pivoting too soon. If you think it is happening, it's really that simple. Also, remember to write objectives for your business first. When you've achieved those objectives, you can start to take stock of what is working and not. Most people just start a business. They just think, I like this, it's great. Please write objectives down. I aim to hit pod objectives. We aim to hit 1,000 listeners in 2 months is an objective. Before we pivot from this podcast, we first go back to check if we have hit those objectives, why we haven't hit it, what could have gone wrong from us hitting it. Then we ask ourselves, what can we do to hit it? The answer or our pivot lies in that, what can we do to hit it? But that only happens when you've taken a step back.
Absolutely.
To reflect. So when you ask yourself, are you pivoting too soon? The question is, you probably are, if you're asking yourself that question, because at the moment you need to pivot, you will just need to pivot. It will happen.
I was going to say the same thing. People don't really enjoy pivoting. Like, let's talk about it that way. If you need to pivot, it is because something has made you. So to be asking means there's still a little room of doubt in whether, I still have the opportunity to reach this objective, or I still have an opportunity to reach this goal. You need to look further and try. If usually when somebody's pivoting is because they have no
Yes.
other, they wouldn't be asking.
Yes.
It would be like the last resort.
Yes. And I want to caveat though, if you see an opportunity within where you are that would bring you more or generate you more income, awareness, or whatever your objective is, then go for it.
Yeah.
Basically, we're not saying don't pivot soon, but if you ask
asking
yourself, am I
yeah.
pivoting too soon? Then it's an opportunity to go back and reflect
because
again.
that also means you are not really sure about the pivot. Because like you said,
Yes.
some opportunities are so glaring that you will take them.
And
That's
then
a pivot. That's fine. You won't even ask yourself. But if you're asking yourself, it's
and
you're right.
opportunities are distracting, so just be careful.
Be careful.
Mind the gap.
Yeah.
Mind the gap.
Yeah.
And if you have a specific business question, like if you have a specific scenario that applies to you in terms of you have a specific scenario, I'm doing this, should I pivot? Just drop us a line and drop us an email or DM us, because then we can answer specific to your industry or your own clear business page at the moment or objective.
So Toby, we got like a really interesting question that I love, and I think you would be perfect to answer this. So
hit me.
What are some strategies for coping with emotions that come up after letting go or pivoting?
That's a good question. I'm trying to remember how I coped. I think that's the best way I can answer it. Strategies, the emotions that come up with letting go. Loss is a very hard thing to deal with. So first of all, accept you're going to grieve it. Because I need people to understand that we're speaking about emotions here.
Yeah.
The moment you have to lose something or let something go, it is hard.
Yeah.
You're going to mourn it. It's like grief.
Yeah.
You're going to grieve the process that is now gone, never to be gotten again. So first of all, I would say accept it. Accept that you're probably going through a feeling of loss. After that, shake it off and go again. So, okay, let me put it this way. Before you do anything, you should write it down anyway. Take stock of your why. Why are you letting go in the first place? If the reason is very profound, I promise you, your grieving process will be very short and very clear. In fact, when you're sad and you're down, you're going to still have a lot of clarity. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced a situation, I don't know, I can ask Temi, where you're letting go of something and you know what you're doing is the right thing to do, but you're still feeling some type of way about it. That's the same as
I know exactly what you mean.
Yes. So I think treat it as a relationship that you need to let go of. A bad relationship. Maybe that would help. I don't know if anyone can relate to that, but I would say let go, reflect, accept, and go again.
Yeah, I like that. It's honestly, these are words to live by, because like you said, it is going to be difficult. You're going to feel those feelings.
Yeah, you will.
But feel them in the right way and
it's
feel
painful,
them. Yeah,
right?
it is. But like, don't let that pain prevent you from moving on and finding something better, because obviously you had to let go or you had to pivot.
And another thing is, remember, everyone is going to go through this feeling.
Yes.
You will never be alone. Yeah. I say this, everyone is going to feel that feeling you think is a big feeling for you now, because most entrepreneurs or most career people are going to experience a pivot at some point on their journey.
Absolutely.
Can I say that? Is that factual?
I think so. Or a diversification. One or the other.
You have to, right?
Yeah, you almost it's almost impossible not to.
Yeah. So for that reason, hopefully that's comforting emotionally to know that everybody's going to go through it. The same way it is almost inevitable. Most people will go through a loss. It is similar to pivoting or diversifying or letting go. At some point in most people's life, you're going to have to go through a let go process.
Absolutely.
In your career or business, you probably will have to. So,
yeah,
give yourself some grace.
I love that. We should all give ourselves some grace.
Yes. I have one for you too. I left the hard one for you.
Please.
So, are you ready?
Okay, now I'm afraid.
So this listener said, I feel stuck in my current job. This is so perfect for you because that was one of the first things you spoke about. I feel stuck in my current job, but I'm not sure what else I want to do. How can I start exploring new career options or pivot?
Okay, let's get into it. So, first of all, as my very, very, very smart pod partner says, write everything down. You need to actually figure out why you feel stuck, right? So sometimes taking stock of things allows us to think through them a bit more. You know, our brains are saturated with problems, and you know, we are thinking. I mean, I don't know if it's just me, but I can be thinking about 6 things at the same time.
To me, you do it all the time.
So I need to clarify this particular problem. Okay, why am I stuck? Are you stuck because of the people? Are you stuck because of the pay? Are you stuck because of the environment? Are you stuck because of the industry? Oh, this is wrong. I don't. So if you now, okay, so if you start to say, okay, I'm stuck because of the people, that means maybe it's the wrong culture for you. I'm stuck because of the pay. Then you need more money. I'm stuck because of the environment. I'm stuck because of the industry. So that now tells you, okay, I'm in tech, but I want to be in fashion. I feel stuck. The first thing you need to do is build your capacity. Go and learn about fashion first of all.
While you're in the race,
you're feeling stuck. Oh, you know, obviously you're not gonna just jump. You're gonna take stock. This taking stock is a process. So how do I start exploring new career options? Okay, what do you want to do? What are the qualifications? Go and qualify yourself. That's one. If it's about the people, which obviously is about culture or whatever other issue is making you feel stuck, you first need to identify it so that you can be very specific in your job hunt in the future, right? So you're looking for a job. Nowadays, you know, things are detailed. They will tell you the kind of culture that they have. They will tell you the kind of person they're looking for. So when you identify what is keeping you stuck, you can find a better position. Let me give you an example personally. Obviously, like I was feeling stuck. I also wasn't sure what to do because I felt like I was not abandoning, but I felt like I was disappointing my position as the owner of a company that I felt the company itself was fine. I was the one that felt stuck. So how do I start exploring new career options? Okay, what am I lacking? I'm lacking a bit of excitement. I'm lacking, you know, like things that are very like impactful. So that already made me feel like I was ready for this new position because it offered those things and I was able to identify what about being in my current position that I was stuck at. So that's what I would say. Just write it down and make sure that you know exactly why you're feeling stuck so that you can apply it into your career search or, you know, finding and identifying right opportunities for you. If they fall in your lap or if you go out and find them, you know exactly what to say yes to because you've identified why you're stuck.
Love it. Let's get practical.
Yes.
For anyone wondering whether to pivot, persevere, or quit, we've got some tools that would help you understand this. We'll have some downloadables after this episode. We have a short quiz and we have like little articles here and there that should help you like determine which of these 3 options to go with.
Absolutely, guys.
Yes. And even like on our Instagram as well, we'll probably have a poll that would help people. Once we gather the data and we see where everyone is, maybe we'll do like a more compounded article on what we think everyone is going through. But on that note, thank you so much for listening to us. Till next time.
And don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and find the podcast on all the platforms that you know and love.
Till next time.
Bye.